Travis, my good self, so frustrated with our news. Not just Utah news, but all news generally. I'm at CBS News now, and deployment of federal agents in Portland raises questions and fears of fascism. This is a definitional video. How abusing and redefining is part of the misinformation, disinformation campaign to destroy a nation, to destroy a society, to destroy a people. Typically in a society, you'll have the youth, the rising generation, creating new words that becomes a code among them that the older generations are not familiar with. So for example, the younger generation says, "I'm gay." The older generation thinks, "Oh, okay, you're happy. Great." That's the most blatant reason. And so the youth then grow up and saying, "What? I meant happy," to give that as an excuse. And then over time it becomes part of the cultural understanding, and then it's completely changed as a meaning. The definition is completely altered. And so that happiness is almost but forgotten, had it not been for a Christmas song. And enemies know this. And so when they send in spies, they utilize that same type of tactic that is already ingrained in cultures that the younger generation do. And part of that is to topple the government. And so what they'll do is they'll redefine government political terminology. They already flipped parties. Democrats were conservative at one time, and conservatives were liberal at one time. And then they've changed since Nixon, at least. And so I use Nixon because Nixon, the campaign slogan of the GOP symbol, reversed, flipped over, inverted the pentagrams on the elephant. Fascism, that's a system of government. Now, if I were to ask, what type of government are we as Americans supposed to have? I would hope not, but I expect, as I keep hearing the news perpetuating this, claiming, well, we're a democracy. We spread democracy around the world. We're not a democracy, or at least we're not supposed to be a democracy. See how they've messed with your minds on changing definitions? Democracy has to do with the government of the demographic, the people. It's a majority vote government. There are no representatives. You are not voting for representatives. You are voting for actions to be done, labors to be performed. The world has never had democracy. It is a failed system, except in smaller family group situations. It fails because there are losers with every vote. And those losers get discriminated against because their voices aren't heard in a democracy. because the majority gets heard, not the minority. And so Democrats manipulate democracy because they keep winning the popular vote since 2000. So yeah, they keep pushing for democracy because they know they'll win a majority vote. Republicans push for democracy when they're talking about whites in America being the dominant race. They both misuse democracy, but it shows how democracy is a failed system for both parties who want to manipulate it even further. So what kind of government is America supposed to have? Well, Article 4 of the Constitution says a Republican form of government. Well, which form of Republican are we supposed to have? Can we just pick and choose? Well, there's two popular ones. One is called communism. That's a socialist republic. The other is called fascism. It's a representative republic. Are we fascism? Questions and fears of fascism in America? With military storming our streets, gassing mothers who are unarmed, gassing the mayor, unarmed, who's in charge of the city? You have to understand the definitions between communism and fascism. And by the way, we're not supposed to be either one of those either, because Article 6 says we're supposed to be a constitutional republic, and America has never been that. Never. We all claim loyalty to the Constitution when it suits our purposes. And when it doesn't suit our purposes, it makes for a great TV show with Kiefer Sutherland. Communism is a combination of socialism and a republic. A republic is a group of people selected from among the populace. A second public. Second. Socialism is similar to democracy, except that socialism is an equal distribution. Whether in economy or in government, it's an equal distribution of labor, equal distribution of property, which you don't get to claim as your own property under socialism and thus communism. You don't own your property. And so if communist claimed nations are allowing their people to own property, then they're not really communist, or they're not really socialist. The GOP loves to call the Democrats the socialists, especially the progressives. But are they? The question is no, or the answer is no, because they still want to embrace our economy. And our economy is a slave and master-slave economy. We haven't gotten rid of our plantation days. Corporations are now the plantations. Slaves are now employees. We haven't changed anything. We just redefined the names. And so, communism is merely a socialistic system governed by representatives chosen by the people. Fascism. It's well known by its symbol. a united group bound in bondage to serve the whole. All for one, one for all. In criminal behavior as well. And so fascism does not allow discoveries, science breakthroughs, new technologies, inventions, ideas, creations, none of that. Everything must conform to what the nation demands. And so there is no freedom of speech. You are told what to believe. You are told what to think. You are told what to say. It is agency withdrawn. And though there may be parties like communism, it's usually by a dictator at the head of a party. And so yes, Hitler was a fascist. He ran as a socialist to get elected, but the manner in which he ran his government was fascist. So there was human experimentations done on Jews, tortured, abused, murdered, all for the sake of the pursuit of science by the state, not by the individual, because the individual is not allowed to have scientific breakthroughs. I should not have been allowed to have my decipherment of Paleo-Hebrew. Because it's the state or the nation that's supposed to have the say as to what Paleo-Hebrew is and how it is to be functioned. I don't get an individual right to pursue my own investigations under fascism. Under fascism, the people are servants, slaves to the government. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, though they claim they're a religion, they are also a corporation. At the head of the corporation are the slave owners, as they employ slaves. The bosses at the top, the slave owners, get a lot of money for enslaving people who struggle to survive on what they're given in their paychecks. And with the church, they even offer you the opportunity to have your tithing taken directly out of your paycheck when you work for the church. The protection money racket that the church performs. They make it easier for you to comply with your regular dues. And so, from the system of the church and its operations, we know the church is fascist. It's a criminal organization. They claim they're part of the priesthood party, the Melchizedek priesthood party, but it's an exclusive dictatorship at the top. But Mormons will still get mad at me because they want it redefined so that it's not so mean, so that it's not so criminal, so that it's not so evil. Let me remind you again, the symbol of Mormonism. It's on the keystone of the arch of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. Remember, the Book of Mormon is supposed to be the keystone of our religion? Well, the keystone symbol of the temples is the inverted pentagram, the falling star of Lucifer. That is the government of the church. That is the economy of the church. And so when we see federal agents attacking, assaulting, abusing, bullying unarmed people in their expression of their First Amendment, yes, it's fascism. There is no question. There is no fear. Oh, I wonder if this is fascism. I'm really wondering. I don't know the definition. Now you know. There is no doubt. We are fascist America. We were fascist America a long time ago. Trump's locking up immigrants, refugees at our southern border, separating families, locking babies in cages. And you didn't think we were fascist then? As the fascist party demanded loyalty to them, saying, how dare you call us fascist? That's a horrible thing to call us. As Trump says, oh, well, there were good people on both sides of the Charlottesville murder. Don't gaslight us with false definitions. Because that's what the church is trying to do.